Man United loanee Sofyan Amrabat started in the FA Cup final win over Manchester City, having finished the season strongly. Sofyan Amrabat's loan spell has now officially ended, and it remains to be seen whether he will return to Manchester United in a permanent move. The Morocco international spent the season on loan at Old Trafford from Italian side Fiorentina. The terms of the switch included an option to make the move permanent for €25 million. That looked unlikely until the Moroccan finished the campaign with a flourish, starting the final 4 games and playing in the FA Cup final triumph against Manchester City. The 27-year-old solidified United's midfield when he was drafted into the team and made a total of 30 appearances, 17 of them from the start. We've asked our United experts what should come next for Amrabat. Ten Hag's use of Amrabat towards the end of the season was bizarre in the sense that he made a difference to the midfield. Had he been brought in earlier to bring a bit of pragmatism to the centre of the pitch, then perhaps the results wouldn't have deteriorated to the sense they did. Pragmatism is exactly what he did bring, however. He held his position, stemmed the flow of attacks bearing down on United's goal, and generally shored things up. His use of the ball isn't his strength, and it wasn't in those final few games. That is why I would resist the temptation to spend €25 million on signing the 27-year-old. United must aspire to be better. They will need a new holding midfielder this summer, especially if Casemiro departs, but as dependable as Amrabat became, long-term he isn't the answer. Negotiate that price down by £10 million and maybe it becomes a deal worth doing to strengthen the squad, but for now they can pass. Amrabat earned a loan move to United after some standout performances at the 2022 World Cup, so it was no surprise to see the Moroccan put in another huge display in the FA Cup final. Amrabat is a player born for the big occasion. The problem is that for much of the 2023-24 season he struggled with the pace and intensity of English football. The fact that Amrabat struggled for minutes despite Ten Hag's ongoing midfield crisis spoke volumes. The manager simply didn't trust that the loanee was up to the task. Amrabat began to make sense as Ten Hag's tactics changed at the tail end of the season. Bruno Fernandes in a false 9 role made the midfield more compact, offering Amrabat a more defined role in which he began to excel. The problem is that if Ineos want Ten Hag to return to a more expansive style, Amrabat may be exposed again. With transfer funds so tight, United badly need to spend the £21 million elsewhere, but that could also work in Amrabat's favour given United need bodies and may not be able to afford their top targets. United fans will remember Amrabat fondly for that FA Cup final masterclass, but that should earn him a fond farewell rather than a permanent transfer. United are operating with a limited transfer budget this summer. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has made no secret of that. That essentially means Ineos need to spend their money wisely. Does Amrabat constitute a wise spend? No. Unfortunately, the Fiorentina midfielder did not show the form that sparked Morocco's run to the World Cup semi-finals in Qatar, and ultimately the current options in the squad offer better value to the team. It seems inconceivable that you would pick Amrabat ahead of Scott McTominay, for instance. Of course, not every player can be a starter, and the 27-year-old would be a decent backup, but if Casemiro is to be sold to a Saudi Pro League club this summer, United need to bring in a replacement who can sit alongside Kobbie Mainoo in the middle week in, week out. Money on Amrabat's wages would be better spent contributing towards Manuel Ugarte. In many ways, it would have been more helpful if Amrabat did not have his positive spurt in form towards the end of the season. He was drab all campaign up to the final few weeks, and now the question is being asked whether to keep him on. It's important to not let recency bias get in the way of overall output, as has so often been the case at United. Amrabat is certainly not worth his buyout clause, and the only consideration should be whether they can get him at a very cheap price. Amrabat was essentially on trial this season and has not proven to be a must-keep asset. That buyout money would be better used on a long-term option who can set United up for the coming years alongside Mainoo.